Hi, Doc here from Mercury Games. I'm going to try to show you guys a bit of a how to play Princess of the Renaissance in case you're not familiar with it. This is for backers and would-be backers. A lot of the stuff that I'm showing you is prototype art, much of it final, but there may be some changes when we go to production if the Kickstarter is successful, and certainly hope it will be. Maybe what we'll do is we'll break this down and look at a couple of different components first, and then we'll go into a slight walkthrough of a bit of the rules, just to give you some familiarity with how the game is played. So in the beginning, we have the map that we're showing you here. There is a wars fought map, which obviously tracks wars that are fought. We have a city status track here, where the 5 different cities with little my little counters that I've cut out show you the continuing status of a city during the game. At the end of the game, there will be victory points awarded to those cities depending on the ranks that they achieve in the city status. Moving up the board, we have a spot here where we can put any of the tiles when they get auctioned. So if we take a city tile, we put it here, everybody knows exactly which tile is being auctioned at the moment. The auction being the main mechanic of the game. The rest of the board has the 5 different cities on it, where you can put these little war markers to indicate that a city is, being attacked and going through the war. And you can also put some of these event tiles will eventually be placed onto these locations if they change the city status. So we can look at this is the first decade's city event tiles, sorry, not city event, just event tiles that will be auctioned during the first decade. I've borrowed some money from Foreclosed just because I'm really bad at cutting circles, so I didn't want to cut out the prototype art for the gold in the game, but this you'd have your gold. We have square influence chits. We have some war victory tokens here, and then we have the Pope, who is a very special tile that can be auctioned during the game. So perhaps what we'll do next is we'll go through the 4 types of tiles that are in the game. We have a starting family tile. The quick anatomy breakdown of these is that here it's showing you the influence that you get at the start of every decade. Whoops, over here we've got how much gold you're going to get, and at the bottom it shows you any special abilities that you may have. So that's a starting family tile. If we come over here, we have some troops. I don't have all of them out, I just have some of the troops showing a gold cost, defense, or an attack ability, and what those numbers are. So it's troop tiles and starting family we've seen. We move on over to the city tiles, of which there are 5 types. Again, I don't have all of them out here at the moment, but they all show you certain things. Abilities at the bottom. At the top, it'll show you if these places continue, or if these people will give you additional influence on top of whatever your starting family has. So in this particular case for Lorenzo Medici, he will give you an additional influence on top of the 8 that your starting family gets you, so you would get a total of 9. And then there's some abilities. And we can look here and we see that there are some other tiles, and of course on the other side of the board here we've got a bunch of others. In this case up here, these merchants will give you 3 extra gold on top of the 12 that you normally get for your starting families. In the game, you will be bidding both influence and or gold, depending on the type of tile that you're bidding on. The last type of tile that we have is the event tile, and here the breakdown is just a little bit different. In the top right hand corner, you'll see that it'll tell you what decade this is being auctioned in. So this is the group of 4 that come in the first decade. It will tell you at the bottom if there is some type of a special ability. Also, if you'll notice, there's for the top 2 guys here, there's a square that looks very suspiciously, and on purpose, looks just like that particular square on Katerina, and that's because it's telling you that you must, in this case, bid influence to get those 2. If you're looking at the tiles below, it's got a little red circle around the gold piece saying that you must bid gold for these people. In the case of city tiles, in all cases of city tiles, you must bid gold for those, and it'll tell you that in the rules. And the minimum starting value is double whatever the city status is. So in the case over here of Venezia, which is red, if it was at 7 and you wanted to get one of these Venezia tiles, you'd have to start the bidding at 7 times 2, which is 14 gold minimum. You can start higher, but that's the minimum that it must start at. Okay, and then as we said before, we do have one final tile. The Pope, he's kind of a special, so I guess he's a 5th type of tile, and he's just special because there is only one of him, and he goes back at the end of each decade to be re-auctioned. Any other tile that is auctioned is auctioned just a one time, and that's it. The Pope gets auctioned multiple times, potentially during the course of the game. So on a turn, you have a number of options. You can buy a treachery tile. You can put up for auction a city tile, put up for auction an event tile or the Pope, or buy a troop, or pass. So we're going to go over the auction since that's the most fun part, and that's the part that most people, if they're watching this video and don't know the game, will want to know a little bit about. So what I've got here is I've just got 3 starting family tiles out to represent 3 people. I haven't put any money in front of them, so pretend they have a certain amount of gold and influence already, which is in the course of the game hidden. So people might be able to see how many chips they have, but they'll be turned upside down, so they won't be able to tell how much money or how much influence they currently have unless they've been able to keep track in their head. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that it's D'Este's turn, and the player would like to auction. They just simply move over and they can pick anything they want. He says, I want to auction a city tile. So he picks up that particular city tile, the merchant, and puts it in the auction box. And as I had said earlier, because it happens to be Venezia, and Venezia is at 7 on the city status track, he must start as a minimum the bid in gold, because it's a city tile, of 14. So let's say D'Este does indeed say he would like to bid 14 for that. And then we go over to Gonzaga, and Gonzaga says, oh, too rich for my blood. So pass. Once you pass, you're out. So he will no longer be bidding on this tile. We move over to Montefeltro, who says, yeah, you know, I like that. I'm going to go to 15. Back over to Este, who really wants that tile, says he'll go 16. And Montefeltro says, no, I'm out. I do not wish to pay that much. So the winning bid for D'Este happened to be 15. All right, there are no bonuses on D'Este's ability that gives him any kind of a break. So you can make change, pays the 15 gold, and then receives in his play area the merchant, which at the beginning of the next decade will give an additional 3 gold to D'Este, for a total in this particular instance of 15 if he had no other tiles, a total of 15 gold that D'Este will have in the next round to use for bidding purposes. Now, a second type of auction can be for an event tile, which is different from that of a city tile. So in the case of the event tiles, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that it comes around to D'Este's next turn. Some other bids may have gone on, people may have passed, people may have bought other tiles. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that he would really like to get Bellini. So ends up putting Bellini up for auction, and if we note, Bellini has in that bottom corner has got the little gold symbol with the red around it that says that this is a gold auction, not an influence auction. So much as in the same way as a city is done, this will be auctioned for gold. The difference with event tiles is that you can start at 0 for the bid. There is no minimum bid that need be done. So in this case, D'Este really wants it, so he's willing to go for a bid of, let's say, 3 gold. But remember, earlier in the round, he paid, what was it? I think we said 15 for the merchant, so he may be running out of gold. We assumed he had some gold from some other source at the beginning, but he may be running out. But he's going to bid, let's say he bids 3 gold for this, and Gonzaga once again says, nope, thank you very much, I pass, I don't want that. Montefeltro, this time though, says he's going to go 6. So doubles the bid, which D'Este would like to do, but doesn't have enough money to bid that high. Certainly doesn't tell the Montefeltro player that instance, and says, no, I'm out. You can have it for the 6. Now, if we look over here at Montefeltro, had this been something that was a bidding with influence, there would have been a discount of 2. So in the case, let's just say it had been, instead of Bellini, let's say it had been Gonzolo here, or Gonzoli. There would have been, if the bid had stopped at 6, the Montefeltro player would have only had to have paid 4, because there's a discount of 2 if bidding in influence. So that includes the fact that Montefeltro may have only had 4 physical influence to bid. Knowing that he bid 6 and had a discount of 2, he could pay for it. So you do not have to have the gold or the influence that is necessary that you bid for, as long as with any discounts that you get at the end, you can pay for it. So that's the second kind of auction that happened. That's an event tile auction, and that is done just a slight bit differently, just because the event tile will tell you what you are bidding in, whether it's a gold, whether it's an influence, and then also the starting value is $0 as opposed to double, since they're not connected with the city, it's not double the city status track. So now we'll take a little bit of time and we'll talk about fighting a war. We'll look at why a war is fought and how it affects the end game. The part of the goal in The Princess of the Renaissance is that you are trying to auction for tiles that are related to the 5 different cities. And at the end of the game, depending on their relative position on the city status track, and let's just, I'm going to make a condition happen, just a fake condition happen. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that this is the way the game ends. What's going to happen is the city tiles, or the city status markers, are moved over to these locations. I'm going to just not hide the numbers. I'm going to move over to this location for victory points. So what these numbers represent is how many victory points you will score for each city tile that you happen to have out of the possible maximum of 6 that you're able to auction during the game. So if you happen to be Venezia, which is red, each of your city tiles that are red are going to score you 10 victory points. And that's in stark contrast to if you happen to have some city tiles from Napoli, which is the yellow, you will only get 2 victory points for each of those tiles. So I said I was going to discuss how this relates back to wars. So the way you change, or one of the ways that you change the city status track for any given city, is by fighting a war. If you start a war on your turn, and that's your action that you're going to use, you are able to determine an attacker and a defender. So in the particular case that we were looking at back here, where let's see, Venezia is fairly high on the city status track, and you do not have any tiles from Venezia, perhaps you'd like it to move down. Maybe you have some of the green tiles from Firenze or Florence, and you'd like it to move up. So let's let's say, Firenze attack and Venezia defend. There are auctions that go around to see who's going to be the leading condottiere for the attack and for the defense. I won't go into the mechanics. You can look in the rules for exactly how a war is fought. If the war is successful for Florence in this particular case, down 1 on the city status track, although there is a possible for a maximum of 2, and 1 up for Florence, again, a maximum possible of 2. So we've now changed the relative position of those 2 cities, and that's one of the reasons why you want to fight wars. The other reason is when you auction for condottiere, those condottières, win or lose, are going to get money from those city-states for having been their condottiere and for fighting the war in the first place. So gaining extra gold is one reason to fight, and changing the relative position of cities that you own or that your opponents own will be a major reason for wanting to fight a war. So hopefully this has given a bit of insight into the game, how it's played, some of the components in the game, and hopefully it's something that you'd like to get together with 2 to 5 of your other friends. The game plays 3 to 6 players. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and I certainly hope that you go and push that pledge button. Thanks for your support.